Real estate. Next generation real estate is knowing that the world has completely been transformed over the last couple of decades. Technologically, with the internet, the flow of information, the way we buy and sell homes today is so different than it was when our parents bought their first homes. This book provides the insider tips and tricks for any home buyer or seller of any generation, from baby boomers to Gen Xers to the millennials, to buy smarter and sell faster.
You want to do that? You want to do that part again?
The whole thing? Okay. Next generation real estate is being able to acknowledge that there's been so many changes, culturally, sociologically, and technologically. The internet and the flow of information has completely transformed the way we buy and sell homes today. Next generation real estate teaches baby boomers how to speak to millennials, and millennials to better understand the experience of the baby boomers. Next generation real estate is about speaking the same language, the language of real estate. I'll just do one of the baby boomers. Next generation real estate is for baby boomers to be able to speak to millennials and Gen Xers to be able to understand the baby boomers. It's speaking one language, and it's the language of real estate.
Start again.
Next generation real estate is being able to understand that the rules have changed. Technology, the internet, and the flow of information has completely changed the way that people buy and sell homes today. This isn't our parents' real estate market. Technologically, sociologically, culturally, it's a completely different world today. Next generation real estate provides the new rules for smarter home buying and faster selling. If you are a baby boomer selling to a millennial, you need to know who your buyer is. If you're a millennial or a Gen Xer and you're buying from a baby boomer, you need to better understand what their life experience is and how to best approach them in a real estate transaction. I like that first part better just now. The baby boomers have a ton of life experience to offer the millennials and Gen Xers. Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Xers, they're used to color, pictures, photographs, Instagram, online listings. Baby boomers who haven't been in the real estate market for 10, 20 years don't even know what to expect. The baby boomers can learn a lot from today's millennials.
Okay.
With the advent of such a colorful, picture-based society with Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, baby boomers need to understand who they're selling to, what their life experience is, and how to best sell to them. I got the idea for the book in 2004. I was actually buying my first home in San Francisco, and I turned to my dad for advice at the time of contract signing. I was very nervous. His feedback was all wrong. It didn't make any sense. I didn't think he understood quite what I'd been through and what my experience was selling real estate. I got the idea for the book back in 2004. I'd been buying and selling real estate for clients for many years, and I finally was embarking on my first home purchase. And just as I was getting ready to sign the contract and ink the deal, I got nervous. And I called my dad and asked him for advice. His feedback didn't make any sense. I felt like I knew more than he did, and he could be learning from me. At that time, I realized there's a huge generational shift happening here. The world was a completely different place today than it was when he bought his first home in the early 80s. And I felt that I had something to offer him. But I also realized through the years that he actually had a lot of good life experiences to offer back to me. I feel like I'm qualified to write this book because I'm an agent. I have feet on the street, real life experience from 10 years of selling real estate and helping buyers and sellers in one of the most sophisticated and complicated markets, not to mention one of the most expensive in the country. Do that one again. I think that I'm qualified to write this book because I've been there. I've got feet on the street experience from 10 plus years of helping buyers and sellers in a really tough market. Most how-to guides or real estate books previously were written by attorneys or dummies type guides or written by financial journalists. They didn't have real life experiences with insider tips and stories from real clients like I do in my book. Do the last part of that again. A lot of the books out there I found weren't written by realtors. They were written by attorneys or consumer advocates or financial journalists. They didn't have that real life experience, that feet on the street, pounding the pavement experience that I have with insider tips and tricks. They also lacked real life client experiences. I bring my real life of selling real estate into this book with real client stories that will help you, the buyer or the seller, buy smarter or sell faster. Why is there a need for this? I think there's a need for this book today because there's so much information out there. There's so many new technologies, so many different ways to get started in buying or selling real estate, and I know them all. I've done the work and I've put it into a one-stop shop for you, the buyer or the seller, to cut through all the nonsense, to cut through the garbage and get right to the point. Scratch. The question is, why is there a need for this book today? I think there's a need for this book today because there's so much information out there. So much technology has changed the way we bought and sold real estate. This book allows a buyer or a seller to go into the transaction knowing ahead of time what to expect. I've done the research. I know the best websites to use. I know the best technology. I know all the insider's tips and tricks to allow you, the buyer, to really focus on buying, or you, the seller, to focus all your energy on getting your home in the market, getting the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. Does that answer the question? Why is there a need for this book? Let's go one more time.
Okay.
I think there's a need for this book because the world has completely changed. The way we buy and sell real estate today is so different than it was just 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago. This book provides the audience all of the guidelines, all of the tips, tricks, and how-to type advice to buy and sell real estate in the world of technology, the internet, and online listings. I feel like there's a need for this book because the world is completely different than it was just 10 years ago, let alone 15 or 20 years ago. Internet, the flow of information, technology has completely transformed the way we buy and sell real estate. I wanted to give a how-to guide for you, the buyer or the seller, to cut right to the chase. I've done the homework for you. I know the best technology and the best websites to use so you, the buyer, can jump right into buying or, as a seller, into selling. That one wasn't as good, but gosh, I think anybody could buy this book, be it a first-time home buyer or a baby boomer who hasn't sold in 10 or 20 years. I think this book is for anybody, from a first-time home buyer to a second or third-time seller who is maybe a little bit rusty. This book is for a baby boomer who maybe bought their house in the 80s and hasn't sold in many, many years and doesn't know what to expect from the buyer or seller process. Scratch that. One idea though. This book is really for anybody. It's for a millennial, a Gen X, all the way up to a baby boomer. A lot of folks haven't been in the real estate market for 25 years, and a seller who bought their home in the 80s doesn't know what to expect today. They don't know about the technology. They don't know how the buyers do things today. The book is for anybody, both a buyer or a seller, whether you're a first-time buyer in your 20s or a boomer in your late 60s. Scratch that. This book is really for anybody, from a first-time buyer in their 20s, single woman in her 30s, or even a baby boomer who's selling their home for the first time in 20 years. I think this book could be used sort of as a how-to guide. Think of it as a real estate agent in your back pocket. I've been there, feet on the street experience, and you can turn to the chapter you need based on where you are in the transaction. I feel like the book could be used kind of as a how-to guide for a buyer or a seller, no matter where you are in the process. You can use this as an agent in your back pocket, for lack of better words. If you're not sure that your agent's telling you the right thing, or you have a question that maybe they're not answering, you can hop right to that chapter and see what my opinion is. Leverage my years of experience for you, and I've written it all down because I've done the work for you. How do you use this book? I think you can use this book at any point in the real estate transaction, early on, or even when you're really readily engaged with your agent and you're in the middle of the buying or the selling process. Turn to the chapter that most applies to you. You could think of this book as having sort of an agent in your back pocket along the way. If you're not sure that your agent's giving you the best advice, or you have a question or aren't certain that what they're saying makes the most amount of sense, double check them. Leverage my years of experience to you and use the book that way. I think that a home buyer or seller could use this book in conjunction with their agent. Use me or the book as like an agent in your back pocket. Hold on. I think this book can be used by any buyer or seller in conjunction with their real estate agent. Think of it as a real estate agent in your back pocket. I think this book can be used in conjunction with your real estate agent. You can leverage my years of experience and use the book as an agent in your back pocket, a second opinion. If you're not sure that your agent's telling you the right thing, or maybe you have more questions, flip through to the right chapter, see what I have to say about things. What's the best part of the book? I think the best part of this book are the real life client stories. I've been doing this for over 10 years and I have real experiences of clients leveraging technology, getting caught in a tough situation, whether they're buying or selling, and I present them to you in a really easy to read how-to type guide for buying or selling real estate. Quite honestly, the book is loaded with all kinds of tips and tricks to help a buyer get into the market or a seller sell their home. Scratch that. The book is really full of all kinds of tips and tricks, both for buyers and sellers. I think one of the most important parts of this book is helping buyers and sellers understand what makes the most sense for them timing-wise and when the best time is to get into the market. Scratch that. The book is full of insider tips and tricks. For buyers, it's how to research and knowing where to research and knowing how to do the best amount of research before you sign the dotted line. For sellers, it's about knowing how to turn your home into a product and knowing exactly when is the right time to sell your home. If you sell your home at the wrong time today, you could have a financial consequence that really means a big deal. Didn't make any sense. Scratch that last part. But the book is full of insider tips and tricks. For sellers, it's about knowing exactly when to list your home, how to get ready to list your home in the market, and how to emotionally detach from your home and start to see your home as a product. This is a better part right here. For sellers, it's more about emotionally detaching from your home today and how to go about doing that so that your home becomes less about your home and turns into a separate product on the market. I think that could be done better. I think it's a good tip. The book is full of insider tips and tricks. For sellers, it's about knowing when to sell your home and knowing how to emotionally detach from your home and start to see your home as a product for the open market.
Even if you mess up.
Okay. The book is full of all kinds of tips and tricks. Like for sellers, it's knowing how to emotionally detach from your home and how to see your home as a product going on the open market. For sellers, it's about emotionally detaching from your home and starting to see your home more as a product and less of your home. For sellers who've been in their home for 20, 30, 50 years, it's important to pull away from the home as your home and start to see it as a house, a product going on the open market for buyers. Do you think we got one of those?
Yeah.
All right. Were there any more? What will they get out of this book? Let's just do one more as like how use it as a guide, a how-to guide. I think anybody buying or selling today can use this book kind of as a guide, an agent in their back pocket, as a way to help them prepare for and then get through the escrow process. Say that one again. I think this book can be used by anybody, a buyer or seller, as a how-to guide. You can flip to the chapter that most pertains to your situation, and this book will allow you to have a second opinion, an agent in your back pocket, to second guess your agent maybe, or if you're not really sure what your agent is saying is the best opportunity for you. That sucked. I think this book can be used by buyers or sellers at any time in the real estate transaction. For a buyer, they can use this early on as a what to expect when going on the market. Wrong. Let's just give it one more shot. I think this book can be used at any time during the home buyer process. I think for a buyer, they could flip through it. It helps them to figure out what to expect in the transaction. For sellers, they can point right to the part that matters to them most and use it as a second opinion. Leverage my years of experience as an agent in your back pocket. If you're not quite sure what your agent is telling you makes sense or you want a second opinion, go to the chapter that matters most to your situation. Writing a weekly syndicated column for the Zillow blog has allowed me to talk to and reach consumers and agents around the country. I've been fortunate enough to be interviewed on national news programs talking about real estate and the things that matter to people, whether you're in a large city, a small suburban town, or even part of the farm country in the middle of the country. Come to me because okay. I've heard from people all over the country, from a suburban mom to a farmer in the middle of the country to big city folks, all looking for similar advice. And my platform via the Zillow blog has allowed me to understand exactly how things work in all parts of the country, not just the major cities. I've had the opportunity to speak to people from all different walks of life, from suburban moms to young couples buying their first home in the country to people in the farm part of the country. I've been fortunate through my weekly column on Zillow's blog and some of my media appearances to speak to consumers, buyers, and sellers from all walks of life, all over the country. I understand what it's like to sell a small house in the suburbs to a farmhouse in the country. My media appearances and my weekly syndicated column in the Zillow blog has allowed me to communicate with consumers, both buyers and sellers, all over the country.